There's a little bit of a misconception when it comes to Tantra. It is not about the Kamasutra or, tantric sex or anything here, although it can be very nice to have some of this stuff connected up with your romantic relational partner, your partner in intimacy. So it's not just that we're looking at the power column in the middle as far as where the core of Tantra is. It's also, there's a channel within integration. So we have the format energies, then we have the sacral generated identity. So in response, an identity generated in the world, either direction or love. And then we have the projected elements. And so this is the power column within the context of our root to sacral, to identity, to throat. And if we were to recognize what Tantra is, we can see that it doesn't have to be an awareness process, because the awareness functions are not part of the Tantra energy. So when you see definition between the sacral energy up to the identity, you've also found the tantric core of the circuitry. And that's the thing that we're going to really go over today to help us understand how identity is generated in the world. And that's what Tantra is, the empowerment of the identity, the generation of the experience and the form, the commitment to being embodied, the flow of the pattern, or our orientation to having rhythm. That's the core of what it is to have tantric circuitry, the tantric channels. Now too, we also have an integration of circuitry. And so relative to our generation of energy or identity in the world, we also have the power, empowered in response to generate an identity. And that's what Ra calls the Tantra of integration, as an aspect overlaid on top of integration. We know this channel to be part of the centering circuit. So a design of commitment to follow one's own convictions no matter what, because this is generated. It is about one's exploration in the world. So when we're talking about the connection between the 10 and the 34, that is also Tantra, as in generation of identity. And where we look at the throat center up here connected to the G, we're seeing now an identity expressed in language, not necessarily action, unless of course it's connected up to energy, and this would be indirect energy. So they're very different relative to these are all direction gates. Whereas down here, remember, we have some love gates as well, collective love gates, transcendent love gates, as in finding love through the other. These down here are not personal. So up here is where the direction of our identity, which is a lot of love expressed in the world, actually happens to manifest out in the world of form. So if we look down here where the physical tantric identity is, it's very different, a very different thing compared to what you say, because relative to the expression up there at the power column, the voices come out very differently. Down here, it's physical. It's a physicality, particularly and especially if you've got unconscious activations creating those channels for you there. So your physical identity is what moves you in the world, what helps you generate your identity. So the key factor that makes the generator generative is obviously going to be a defined channel. And then we see a fixed way of generating their identity in the world. So love of the body, love of humanity, and direction, okay? Direction, the higher self, empowered in the now. When we look at the gate of direction, that magnetic monopole, remember, you do have it. You just may not have a planet activating there, so not fixing it into a specific either conditioning receptor, if you have an undefined G center identity, love and direction, or you might have it hanging in a defined G center, so then it is part of whatever's defining your G center, or you have it in a channel, right? So those are the ways that it can show up relative to just the basic ways. Yeah. What we can see here relative to the sacral center is always remember any power gate, because all sacral gates are powerful, have to be asked in order for the response to happen, in order for that magic to happen. This is a profound sacral power generated in the world. So the sacral center always in response. Now again, remember, even if you're someone like Lavina with an undefined sacral center, any hanging gates hanging out inside of that undefined sacral center is something that has to be asked for or in context with regards to what the type is, recognized and invited for projector, initiated and lunar cycle for the reflector, and of course the manifestors informing when it comes to this energy. But nobody can take this energy from you without, so my mind is saying severe damage to one's energy system. I do not know if that is true, but my experience has definitely led me to experience the ramifications of things being taken rather than allowed to be given in, you could say, response or be asked for. So the throat does not empower the identity, right? Because we have a mechanism of expression up there. These are projected channels. We can see the sacral center absolutely generates energy for the identity in the world. And so while the throat can express the role of identity, it is only the physical identity down here, generative energy, that creates some kind of broadcasting of this open and enveloping aura that is drawing things to it in order for it to respond, it as in the being. Do recall that all sacral gates, besides that they're power gates, that they all create that energy vortex swirling, and particularly you have very powerful gate activations within the context of the G center. The thing that gets any group started, or even just a pair of two together, is this 15, that particular love of humanity gate. As a love gate, it's very yummy, attractive, juicy to us fives on the other side. And that usually gets the first couple started, you might say, which then attracts more people. And the next person that is going to be pulling in would be that 46, okay, relative to homogenizing the group energies. Okay, the group energy, and making everybody feel good, feel like it's a place that they can belong to or be a part of. And of course, the 46 being love of the body, very attractive, very yummy, very juicy to the 29 on the other side, if this is in separate beings. So that's how we get the energy started relative to generating tantric energy in the world. Either you have a channel, and so therefore you have your own fixed way, style of generating your identity in the world, or you have activations, or you're completely open, right? So when there's hanging activations, especially and particularly when it's going to create definition between those two beings, you know they're going to be attracted to each other. But it's a spark, potentially, an electromagnetic frequency, a chemistry that arises from within those two beings. Now, when you're looking at somebody who is not sacral, as in this is not generated, so the 30% approximately, a little more than that, the rest of us who are not generative, then you're looking at beings who are going to generate energy, but it's not the same frequency. It's not the same kind of power. It's softer. It's usually gentler, as in it's not the jet airplane. It's more like a motorboat. Not being good, bad, right, wrong. Just letting you know it does not create the generative aura when two non-generators come together and create the electromagnetic frequency. So what we have here is uniquely special between the identity of the self and the sacral, in that this is where we generate our identity in the world, either as an individual or as a couple or as a small group, because these are the small group channels, whether it be family or in business. Okay, we call that penta. So as we look at this awareness, lack thereof, we can see what Ra meant when he said, there is no awareness necessary to generate love and to generate direction. No awareness necessary, because that whole system is right there without connection to the awareness centers within the design. So the question of individual awareness doesn't matter here. The totality of existence is aware. As we know mystically, cosmically, it is aware, it is conscious. Even our scientists are saying the conscious, universe and such. We know it to be biverse relative to how things work in our human design. So the nature of true Tantra, according to body graph mechanics, is that we have the love of humanity and the love of the body, and these are the two things that are magnetizing people into the energetic flow or the responsiveness of finding the embodiment of one's direction, one's discovery of oneself in the rhythm and flow of being yourself. So everybody has this capability to discover and to be in flow. It's just that for some of us who don't have it either defined or just having hanging activations, we are conditioned to it. It is an inconsistent experience. It is not locked and limited into a very specific, correctly limited, highly specialized way that we are here to respond. So my hope is that by repeating this over and over and over again, you don't get locked into one dimensionality, and that you open yourself up to the multidimensionality of how one might experience anything in the body graph. Because in a very technical sense, this energy actually moves outwards in an individual. Whereas in a small group, the dynamic of the moment that we have three people together, it moves up in like this. Okay, it moves up in like this. That's the small group energetic flow. But in an individual, this energy can move outward. So as we look through this, in the 15, we can see that it goes through to the 10, which is opposite in the mandala wheel, isn't it? If we look at our mandala wheel, let's just visualize the polar oppositions in the wheel. Yeah, one side of the arm of the great cross of the vessel of love, we know that they both are polar opposites in the wheel, and any opposition in the wheel is actually the same thing, just expressed in a different way. You get that? Think about the nodes of the moon. The path that you're walking, the road that you're traveling, it is one road, it is one path. Or the way that you're seeing, the way that you're perceiving, it is one road, it is one path. But they are labeled differently on either side, and therein lies the beautiful duality. So then, basically, what we're understanding, comprehending from looking at the mandala wheel mechanics is that there is this connective field between 10 and 15, as well as the 46 and the 25, isn't there? Okay? Because they're opposite. The polar opposition in the wheel is connected up, and we can see that quite clearly when we activate within the mandala structure. Yeah? So we know then that there is this energy moving outward. So the way that it is showing up relative to the vagus system in our health process has to do quite literally with this tantric energy, the way that we live and the way that we breathe. Kind of looks like lungs down there, doesn't it? That's how I remember. So it's vital relative to this tantric circuitry within the body, within this construct, within the matrix. It's not a circuit that is taught by most human design professionals. This is deeper layers of information that you might even need some medical practice or terminology to learn or brush up on that in order to comprehend some of the concepts that are within the circuit fully. So do trust that this today is merely an introduction. It's not a comprehensive, it's simply an overview relative to how this particular entire breathing in and breathing out works. I shall give you keynotes though when it comes to how to language this. And here's what I expanded upon relative to Ra's work. A sacral generator, indeed anyone, truly, but what consistently, they're here to generate specifically, right? Any generators. They're here to respond in order to create life, to preserve and protect life, and to create life. So we can see then that protecting life would include the love of humanity in establishing a rhythm to find the perfected form that generates security necessary to educate life. In generating our security that is necessary to maintain our flow, that perfects the form for survival, we can find satisfaction of being who we are for ourselves. So right there, I just continued on the framing of the language. So if you see somebody with these three channels, now you know somewhat, always there's an or not, but that there's a very specific way this being is here to respond with their identity in order to protect life. This is part of their process, protecting life, right? Okay, so if we move over to the other side, now we can see the create life, which is the love of the body. Let me move my little toolbar here. There we go. We have love of the body, discovered in embodiment, initiated into the mysteries, brought into the temple, in creating more that leads us to sustain life, or its endurance and continuity and productivity and procreation, and so mote it be, all of those wonderful things of creating life. And it leads me to remember one of my favorite movies when I was younger, particularly as a kid, young adult, The Fifth Element. You know, The Fifth Element, which was love. Love. She was built to create and protect life particularly. I so love that about this particular circuitry, as in, it doesn't have to be about sexuality. Don't get me wrong. When you have this in your romantic partner, of course it's going to be sparky, yummy, juicy, addictive, whatever the case may be. I might be speaking from the projector experience, yeah. But when it comes to our awareness now of how this might work in somebody, now we can see the keynotes we might use besides the channel names. So, discovered for the success of embodiment through the love of the body as a temple, brought into the mysterious initiation of being able to cross that bridge into the unknown by mating or bonding in order to create something that is more than just the two individual parts and pieces that come together, whether that be babies or whether that be business, whether that be family or whether that be friends, doesn't matter. There is a generation of energy here that is very specific to that particular being, okay? One of the most fascinating subjects for me, obviously, as a 29, my personality is grounded in the gate of commitment. This 4629 represents something very, very special and specific when it comes to Tantra. This draw to be magnetized, to be embodied or in form. This channel of discovery, a design of succeeding where others fail, or failing where others succeed. It is the most existential, as in purely present in the now, yet cyclical, abstract circuitry. So, in this vein of failing where others succeed, it reminds us indeed that all of these channels have a this or a that, a frequency, a chemistry. It doesn't have to be only this. Don't get lost in the duality. It's not or, it's and. Yeah, it's and. It can be both. And there doesn't have to be a value judgment on it, that it's good, bad, or right or wrong. Everything frequency, everything chemistry, we're either closer and closer to alignment or not. So as we look at this channel in the abstract process, it is a singular place where we're talking about health and well-being. And the reason being is because, oh, there it is, 46, right here, is at the middle of the quarter of duality, purpose fulfilled through bonding. It is the love gate that starts off the second part of the quarter. It is the mother for all fears for the body's survival, because it is the lead hexagram for every single splenic gate there is, right here. It's a very, very special gate activation. Think of it as the body's feel good, and particularly, especially when you're coming together, of course, in a relational dynamic, or especially when you're looking at the penta dynamics or the small group. It's like a tranquilizer of the small group. It makes everybody feel good. Because this is the most purely existential, meaning in the now, of the abstract channels, it means then that it leads us to chemically, experientially, be completely immersed and lost in the experience. And if you've ever had such amazing sex that it could have been minutes or hours, you know what I mean, yeah? Not that this is only sexual, don't get me wrong, it's just my experience with my husband, particularly, one of our 7 electromagnetic channels. So, the abstract speaks to the nature of being fully immersed in the experience for the experience's sake, to let go of expectations and just be present. Here it's being available to the experience, to be submerged, immersed in the experience for the experience's sake, to be embodied, to be lucky, to be in the right place, in the right time, to be here, now, at present, and in presence of being. And if it's a relational dynamic, of you with the other. So, health and well-being. The feel good, not only between in that being of for themselves, but also in a partnership and also in a small group of people. It'll make everybody feel better. We just feel better when you're around, 46. Ah, our luck is here. Luck is with me, you know. Fortune smiles on the blessed and the prepared, the committed, that kind of thing. Okay. So, in succeeding where others fail or failing where others succeed, we see that we have the abysmal, the deep within the deep. If we look at this gate, this channel of discovery, where we have that succeeding, and look, it says succeeding, and yet it's not a projected channel. It's designed to be satisfied in being who it is for itself. Remember too that it's a mirror channel to being in flow. So the flow is about the pattern and the logic of moving forward into the experience. The abstract, timeless process that is definitely immersed in the experience for experience's sake and has a touch of the past is most purely existential. Now, Ra says that there's nothing that is actually discovered in this channel, as then that the discovery comes from the causation of the experience, but not through the experience. And to think about how this functions, how is it really experienced? With this whole channel, the experience is about the moment you are committed to the experience. When you are committed to the experience for the experience's sake, letting go of any expectations in order to completely be immersed, it gives the power of your capability of being committed or present or available to this power being unleashed into the world, because that is a power gate, 29. Some keynotes that maybe also show up are enslavement. Enslavement. Why would it be enslaved? Because the 29 has the capacity to say yes. It can also say no to an experience. But impulsively, repeatedly, unfortunately, it almost always says yes, 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 yes. And sometimes it should be better that we wait for, let's say, clarity in Lavina's case, rather than saying yes to everything and everyone, right? Unleashing the energy into the world through its perseverance to the experience, in order to see things through to the completion, in order to gain the good fortune and good luck that comes from this channel being lost in the moment. In my personal experience, lost in the experience of feeling like time is suspended, where you're so fully immersed in the moment, it's like there's been no time at all. And sex being one of those places that can take you there. Not that necessarily that it has to always be that, to be aware. The abysmal, the deep within the deep. This is the gate of perseverance, where persistence, despite difficulties, has its inevitable rewards. So, the power in response or through asking, and whatever the authoritative process happens to be, to commit to the experience or to the other collectively, it is a potential for this subjective energy that brings the power of dedication. Potentially, not always, but potentially dedication. And that 29th gate, all of them are generative gates, but this one's a crucial generator gate. It messes people up more than most. This is the place where there's an automatic reflex to say yes, and this is the place where if it's time for you to let go of the embodiment business or the embodiment show, where the body says no to life, where the deconstruction and deterioration of the body begins when it's time to leave this form. That's where we say no to life. Because of that automatic reflex gate, though, saying yes, through the line qualities of being a draftee, first line, assessment, second line, evaluation, third line, directness, fourth line, overreach, fifth line, confusion, sixth line. This gate will say yes to just about anything, and does so as long as one is unaware of one's strategy and honoring oneself as one's own authority. In an undefined state, the being is learning about how to say no in alignment with their strategy and authority in this life. So this automatic reflex of saying yes, it isn't always correct. It's also about saying no. So in most cases, like with those like me who carry the 29, at some point we get to this place of, oh, yes has gotten me into a lot of trouble. I have the third line, right? So detrimental situations where then waiting, spontaneously taking action. You know, if this gate were personified and had that voice, it would say, I'm saying yes to life when it says relative to its sound that it makes. And then when you die, the 29 says no. All death is triggered by the 29th gate. It does not matter whether you're dying of natural causes or not. Death is just a doorway, a transformational step in the evolutionary process of what it is to be human. Currently, we are carbon-based forms. In future, we might be silicon-based, the 11-centered, particularly type, not on this planet in this current timeline. So in most cases, this particular gate activation can bring us some pretty deep trouble. Remember, the deep within the deep. Yeah? But persistence, despite difficulties, has inevitable rewards. It is the power of commitment. Normally, people think of commitment over here, okay, with the heart center, over-committing, you know, that kind of thing. But remember too that there's commitment in you. If you've got this 29th gate, has to be asked for. Experience has to be entered into correctly, letting go of any expectations. The joy is in the journey, yes? It's not about a destination. We die. Oh, spoiler alert, we die. So what is it that we experience along the way? This 29th gate carries something incredibly essential for all of us to recognize or to self-realize, if that is something that you have. This is where you commit to the experience for the experience's sake. So it's actually the gate that does the deciding. The deciding happens here. to commit one's energy into the experiential realm in a cycle, the new cycle. So when we ponder this, and as a personal aside and story, you may have heard me speak of this before, but I remember going through the very first time that I taught rave cartography with my co-teacher at the time, my mentor, Darshana. And I remember having a complete meltdown in recognition. Some memories popped up of not being asked relative to my body, because this is where the body temple, the wisdom of embodiment is where I'm open. So open to experiencing life in this form. Is it safe? Not necessarily, relatively to how I experienced life, either being abandoned or not, the power of the relational capability of the sacral now, because where we are in the mandala wheel is in the quarter of duality, purpose fulfilled through bonding, right? Water over water. So relational experiential processes. There is usually going to be, for a 29 who's just hanging out here, a relational dynamic between it and the 46. Because again, love gates being what they are, we're already genetically attracted to mate or bond with what is different, or the other side of the channel. Yes? Yes. But when it comes to that yummy, juicy, magnetic, 46, you make me feel safe and healthy and secure, potentially. Because remember, 46, love of embodiment, love of any form, not just the other person's form, but any form of embodiment, okay? So the gate that is deciding which experience to enter into is right here. What am I going to commit to? I can only commit to one experience at a time. This is the gate that's actually deciding. And so let's take a look at this very, very essential gate that teaches us something unique relative to our experience in this power column, okay? We see the crossover that's happening underneath there in the sacral center. We see that this gate 42 is the gate of endings. Yes, it brings growth through cycles of experiences. We have to first enter into something correctly in the beginning in order to have the cycle of maturation and experience growth on the other side. So here is where we have the power, we can also say empowerment of the life itself, the life cycle itself. So quality of life being something that many people are concerned about. It's like these are beings who are more about the experience. Yeah, what did we learn from the experience? Quality of life is determined for us abstract beings relative to the value of the experience that we've gone into in order to find growth or to learn something new, different from the experience for the experience sake. Because remember, when you're abstract, we don't want to repeat the same experiences over and over and over again. Nope, new and improved. What's next? Especially, I say new and improved, I'm a 3, relatively speaking. 6 down here. So the experience being whatever it is, not that you have to have some kind of outcome, but I often say the joy, I have vitality down here, being in the journey, the experiential process, as in the discovery of growth as we wander or walk or skip or jump or sing or dance or cry our way through life. Okay, the experience, the value of the experience that you go through. It's not about whether it's right or wrong, good or bad, this thing, that thing, who really knows? But it's about them being your experiences, and that's the only thing no one can take away from you, your experience. And what is your experience? Your personal integrity to being who you are for yourself if you're generative, or being a success if you are projected, or having your impact with peace, your freedom of action if you're manifested, or having the surprise of your lunar cycle bringing you alive in its process of the development of your personal experience as you walk or wander through life. Because all of us are equipped to have experiences. This is the human experiential way. Yes, we're here to have experiences. It is about the value of the experience itself, not the outcome. So our experiential knowledge, again, the only thing no one can take away from you. They can't tax it from you. They can't thief it from you. They can't steal it from you. They could dismiss you. That's not valuable to me, but who cares? It's yours, right? So the experiential knowledge is of value to the totality. Because you exist, you are priceless to the totality. It doesn't have to have a particular outcome, as in, wow, look at what I learned and it all was wonderful in the end. Yeah, the end, happy ending. No, sorry, that's not life. Not really, not truly. It is in Disney, but it's not really life, is it? It is simply experience for experience's sake. Okay, this is what we're saying yes to. This is what we find to be true, is that when we make commitments that are ours, we find something valuable, okay? Whether that value happens to come out, quote unquote, good or bad. Good news, bad news, who knows? We don't really know. Can't truly know until the end of the show, the movie, you know, right? Because what we're looking at is that this is a process, okay, of development that includes the entirety of the power column till we get to the end and we share what we remember, you know, at the end of the story. But when you're making commitments that do not belong for you, or maybe are not for you, as in right for you, aligned for you, that contribution fully, completely, either objectively or whatever your case happens to be, however it is you personally are designed, then you're not making a commitment, a contribution relative to the authentic nature of what you came here to do. So when you are not designed for those experiences that, let's say, you initiated yourself into and you're not a manifester. Okay, so then you most likely will suffer in that process, but what did you learn from it? Remember, there's an enormous amount of suffering in all abstract circuitry because it tends to be messy. In the abstract circuitry, it can be quite painful. Everywhere, because this is emotionality, yes? Where we have, here how I keep saying yes, attempting to get you to agree, yes? Do you see? Do you see what I mean? Yes? Yes, when I say yes, doesn't it make you want to like nod your head? You got your mirror neurons going on, you might be smiling. I don't know if you're looking at me or not, but you see, it's engaging the experience for experience's sake, where we collectively can enjoy the journey and share indiscriminately or not, impersonally, I am impersonally, because this is what we do as humans. And it's not just the joy in the journey, there's suffering in the journey. Especially in particular, you got some really heavy hitters down here, whatever it happens to be for you, you know, painful, potentially. Now, according to Ra, only the not self suffers. And most of the world being not self, you can see there's a lot of dysfunction in this gate. The 29, being able to say yes or no to life, is one of the great gates of suicide, as in, I can't figure out any way to get out of this. Speaking as not self, you guys. I can't figure out any way to get out of this. Life is so much suffering and pain. I can't figure out how to get out of it, so I'm just going to off myself. Just going to attempt that, you know, getting out and suiciding. Can you just decide to die as in, no, I'm done? Not necessarily. Not really, you know? Taking action. Is it aligned to off yourself? This being everything under the sun, you know, collective, everything under the sun. We might find new and different ways of offing ourselves, creative ways, the mind giving it stories. So not being designed for the experiences. When you find yourself immersed in an experience that isn't right for you, frustration, and then relative to type, anger, bitterness, resentment, disappointment, what have you. It's just a signpost, And do you know what to do when you get across that signpost? Do you power through? No, you stop. You stop. You stop. Stop moving forward. Stop thinking that thought. Can you? Maybe, maybe not. But you can observe and you can watch and you say to yourself, who's watching? Like who truly? Who's observing the suffering? Can you detach just a teeny bit from whatever it is that's driving you mad inside? The pain, the suffering, the believing, the ego I lie, the story that may or may not be true. If we think about the nature of the fifth line here, overreach, the fifth line is always going to tell you in any of the 64 hexagrams how the outside world is perceiving you. So, first line tells us how the is at its foundational core. First line, survival, okay, of the self, connection with the other, and fulfillment of the process, accordingly to these binary couplets. So, the way that the fifth line is keynoted is projection, because everybody looks to the nature of the five and projects upon them. Projects upon them. That person bit off more than they can chew. They have overreached. They've overreached. Yes? So that's projected onto every 29 fifth line. Okay? The fifth line is a kind of failed ambition, as in, I tried to have that experience, but it was too much for me. Again, the biting off more than one can chew as a common saying. Overload or overreach. So other people projecting onto you, oh, you took on too much, you know? On the 29th gate that will say yes until it can't, it quits, it fails. And then you find somebody else to say yes for you because this one's burnt out. Goodbye. Next. That's where we talk about the slavery, okay? Slavery. Super slaves, no one like a projector to super slave away. But even it happens with generators too. If you don't say yes to you, and instead to say yes to everybody else, commit to you, commit to your process, okay? Relative to your experiential process. What's right for you? What's aligned for you? And Beatrice is saying, and oh, didn't I power through when I got stuck in frustrating experiences as a 2946. Yeah, that's generally what tends to happen because, you know, what are some common sayings? I don't know if they have this in your neck of the woods, but second place is the first loser. Or no pain, no gain. That kind of shit, you know, where it's like, no, just ignore the body, ignore the temple, right? Continue on, power through. Doesn't matter that you're frustrated. Keep on keeping on. No, actually. Okay, no. This is not about suffering. And yet this is the planet of suffering, as we learn in rave cosmology, that there is a reason behind why life is so difficult and hard here. Isn't it nice to know reasons and that we're not crazy and there's nothing wrong with me, nothing wrong with you? I quite like that too. Okay, so if we think about it in the language of empowering the identity with this channel of discovery, succeeding where others fail, failing where others succeed, remember we also too have embodiment here. And embodiment is the pushing upward or the gate of the determination of the self. Serendipity, good fortune, good luck. It reads good fortune that may be perceived as the result of serendipity, but derives from effort and dedication. The 46 is the gate of the flesh. It's the gate of the body. It's the gate of the temple, which is the house of the spirit. Yeah, treating your body like a temple. So gracing it with pleasurable things to wear, making it smell good, you know, pearls and silks, my mind thinks, because this body tends to like those kinds of things. But it can also be what you put around you. What do you surround yourself? Houses are simply extensions of your body, yeah, our little nests. When we're pregnant, we know this. We nest, we create little nests for our, you know, home for our new baby, yeah, the new embodied being coming through. So the temple, which is a house of the spirit, the love of the body and the love of being embodied and the love of the flesh, the glory of what it is to be human in this body. This body right here now, nothing wrong with this body. It is what it is, you know? And when you commit yourself to the wrong experience, what you do is you pollute your body experientially. You pollute your temple. Example, the most dangerous thing you can do as a being, and especially as a projector, is encounter people that are not right for you, because you take them on. It's like you're eating them energetically. Yeah, you become them. And would you really want to put that on a fork, quote unquote, raw? So by polluting the temple, by not being committed to oneself to love the body as a temple, the house of the spirit, what happens is you destroy the flesh, and the flesh becomes weak. Remember, this is the mother for all fears for the body's survival. Survival, well-being, form principle, intelligence here for surviving. Yeah, very ancient construct relative to this being the lead hexagram. It is the start of the beginning of the the second part of the quarter of duality and bonding. And Godhead-wise, it's Christ. Christ. Love thy neighbor as thyself. Oh, but how well do you really love yourself, your body, your flesh, this being? It's all about recognizing, again, the nature of what a sacral response truly means, which is there's not going to be any power and no clicking of the responsive gear mechanism unless you are directly asked relative to, is it right for you? Is it aligned for you? Is it healthy for you? Is it safe? Is it secure? Is it going to bring you satisfaction if you're generative? And if you have the whole channel, you are. So we see first line, being discovered. Second line, prima donna. Third line, projection. Ooh, interesting, outside of the pattern, yes? Impact, fourth line, that one too. Pacing, fifth line. Integrity, sixth line. So every single one is going to have a different way of experiencing. Do recall, lower trigram is a personal process. Upper trigram, more of a transpersonal process, as in reaching to at least the other side of the channel. Yes? I keep asking you in order to engage with you. Okay, so the Tantra of the flesh is to be in the experience, lost, timeless, and perfect as it is. To make a commitment to something and to get lost in there, lost in the experience, lost in the embodiedness. Embodiedness? Is that a word? I don't think so. Embodiment, the embodied experience. There we go. So this empowerment of the identity, the moment that you bring this whole channel together, you're looking at a definition here with discovery as the keynote, succeeding or not. Yeah, succeeding or not, satisfyingly, relative to who you are for yourself. You're generating an identity in the world. And so what you have is a body that is satisfied and at peace with what it's doing. When it's satisfied, successful. The mystery of this Tantra is that there is no time. Time is an illusion. Just like yang is an illusion that operates out of the yin. The now is the only present moment that we have. The now informs the past, which affects the future. This is the way it works. The now always affects the past, which informs the future. All we have access to is here and now. And when you're fully immersed in the experience, you experience that timelessness. Remember the keynote of the tribal context? Yeah? Timelessness. Here it is. That linkage, that connective field relative to creating life. Create life. In response, can create or generate life, more life. And so when you get so deeply into the experience that suddenly you realize, oh my God, what time is it? You know, is it really that late? Is it really that early? Oops, we forgot to sleep again. You know, now you're there relative to the beauty or magic or mystery and wonderment of what it is to be embodied. Of course, there has to be a response, a pure response, in order to let go completely and deeply Absolutely. This is the Tantra of the flesh, to be in the experience and lost and timeless and perfect. So that's why only later, after the experience is over, can we quote unquote figure it out to the best of our ability. Because when you're really in it, you are gone. Have you ever been just like mind blown, so gone, whatever the experience happened to be? That used to happen to me quite regularly in a different kind of context. Now it happens in teaching, where I'm just like, wait, oh God, what time is it? Oops, sorry guys, forgot to give you a break. So immersed in the experience. That's part of an example of what it's like to be you for you, relative to doing what you came here to do or be, or whatever it happens to be for your frequency and chemistry. You're just gone. Perfect. Timeless. Lost. Anyway, it's very nice, obviously, when it's connected up with the other in the romantic or relational dynamic. But please understand it's not about that necessarily, according to Ra. Because if you do have a sexual relationship with someone, as you having one side and they having the other, it can be a transcendent, transpersonal experience. And you're going to experience these moments of transcendence. Just want you to know, it doesn't have to be about sex. It can be a work relationship, a work partnership, where you're on the same team. You know, it really feels like you're committed, you're all together, one for all for one, like the Three Musketeers kind of thing. Okay, it doesn't have to be sexual. Because then if you do just put it to the gross as in just body, the flesh only, you diminish some of the beauty that's there, or the wonderment. In a family, this is what takes us out into the world. Okay, this process, this experience. It's so much more than just two lovers coming together. It has its place in small groups, either family or business. And it has its place individually, obviously, because you might have this channel. So what is it like for you? Love to hear. And then that transcendent experience. You can have that in anything, in any experience relative to what your frequency is going to show up like. And that's part of the magical mystery tour of being embodied, you know, the discovery right around the corner. Oh, I didn't know that was there. Wow, that's really fun. Now, if we compare and contrast that with the dry, cold, hard logic, please, the pattern, if you will, the rhythm, the timing, very different on the other side, yeah? We're dealing with a polarity of movement between we have cycles of experience versus what logic brings, which is pattern orientation. Straight line, you know, we have all this balance within the design. We have this step-by-step logical process moving forward into the future. Then we have the abstract cyclical, which is, you know, all over the map, timeless, lost. Don't know what time it is, you know, whereas logic usually wants to be on time. Abstract wants, or punctual. Abstract wants to be there early because they don't want to miss out on that timelessness. Because we're so used to losing track of time. Anybody else like that? Lose track of time and stuff. Oh my God, I got to start class now, you know? Because you're doing something that is enjoyable to you. Now, here we have a perfect example of the two coming together, as in that sun, it appears to be going in a straight line. And it appears that we as a planet, in addition to all the other planets, are spiraling around through space and time around that sun. But if we were to zoom out even further, we know that our entire solar cell, right, our solar system, is actually spiraling around in the galaxy. So there are always going to be a process of patterns mixed with cycles. Logic is a straight line. It's not a spiral. A straight line is logic around which any spiral moves, the cycles of experience. So the abstract process is forever going around in a straight line of logic, which leads us into the pattern of the future. And logic is very fixed in that way. It's a very different thing. With logic, it's not these cycles of experience. It's the staying power. Remember, determination, which is different than cyclical energy. This one is concentrated relative to the power of the format energy. So concentrating one's energy, concentrating into the pattern, the focus, in order to find the rhythm, the fixed pattern, married to the swings of extremes to find the rhythm and flow. So bringing all of this experiential process, remember it's merging together in the sacral, into a pattern, focused on something, focused on the future, focused on the experiment rather than the experience. So great visual for the logic and abstract. I do love this. It's like a tight beam of light. It's not like stoplights at a street corner that are going to go endlessly through a cycle. Think like they have these flashlights that can be so powerful they go really, really far. Like, I don't know, I remember seeing them at a festival when I was in my younger years, where it could just, like, how on earth is it going that far, you know? One tight, fixed beam of light, think, for patterns, yeah? Nice in order to identify it with light, visual, because logic, that's right eye. So one fixed beam of light, think, for patterns, for logic. And now we're at the channel of rhythm, a design of being in the flow. Remember, the 515 is a universal energy, as in it is in all forms of life, design of being in the flow. So repetition is the great spirit of human love. The 15 brings consistency in a group, a small group of people, dependability, reliability, okay? Interestingly, in an individual, it's talking about extremes, right? Extremes of patterns, as in they do things very differently. But the moment it gets locked into either a channel or a group particularly, this is now going to be something that pulls people into the group itself, because it is the thing that gets people pulled in, the love of humanity, into the flow. So what happens with this Tantra, remember, it's a generates identity in the world. This channel construct actually does not necessarily feel comfortable in small groups, even though it's a small group channel. It doesn't necessarily like being in that group. Why? Because what if it has to conform or bend to other people's energetic flows? It's not in charge of setting the culture or the reliability, the dependability of how things work within the company or that context of that group, whether it be a small group in family or a small group in business. That particular channel requires it has its ability to follow its response, because this is a very powerful channel. Again, the channel of rhythm, design of being in the flow, it is the channel that gets everything started, and it is the one universal channel. It's within all forms, except for plants, down to the cellular construct, single-celled organisms, okay? So the deepest love that we can experience or have for each other is expressed through repetition and the perfection of patterns. So in relationship, I'm always going to use myself and my husband as an example here because I can really identify with it. We are perfecting our love through the pattern of living together. So we have this perfection of patterns relationally. So all forms of life having this channel, you can see it there in the single cell. You can see it partially in the plant. You can see it within the insects. You can see it within the birds, reptiles, and fish. And you can see it within the mammals. Of course, obviously, also with humans. So all forms of life having this channel, that means that the flow in common, the pattern of the straight line of life, as in this orientation of our locked in limitedness to this form construct, it appears to be that everything is happening linearly because step by step patterns, right? So because these plants, okay, don't have a 5, we who have this can manipulate plants to have patterns. We can train them to grow on the side of a trellis or to bloom and flower at different times of the year, depending on how we treat them. Okay? So, other things too. Insects can manipulate plants, and so can birds, reptiles, and fish. Isn't that interesting? So, we look at the tantric channel here in relational context to the circuitry, and we see that fixed patterns, that concentration of energy in response to be in flow, moves throughout the entirety of the circuitry. It's oriented towards the future. It's about health, safety, security, well-being. Yes, spontaneous, dry, cold, hard facts of logic that move forward into the future. Now, it can look really chaotic if you're running around in a spiral. But when you're staring at a straight line, that seems very linear. The pattern doesn't seem chaotic at all. All of us have different combination of things inside of us, not just on the surface, but underneath. Same thing happens where we have all of these nuances, subtleties, accents, and particulars relative to how we are constructed, which is why we are so different, each of us, uniquely perfect. Perfect as we are, and becoming more so as we unfold and flower and bloom. The beauty of being focused and concentrated is that the more that you concentrate, eventually you get to the point of simplicity. Not serendipity of the chaos of being embodied, but the simplicity, the ease of which, where you get to this point of reference, where there's this simple, concentrated formula, a formula that can be repeated. One of the reasons why human design is so wonderful to use is because it's a formula that can be taught. Yeah, it's a language formula. It's an identification formula. It's something that helps us identify and correct and align patterns. So beautiful to see. So we begin with waiting, the gate of fixed patterns. Again, in response, we have the fundamental attunement to natural rhythms. Waiting as an active state of awareness. This being the gate of fixed patterns, according to Ra, is that one of the things to be clear about in the nature of the 5th gate is that, like the 29th gate, it's also about making a commitment. But it's making a commitment in a very different way. So what it's saying is, we respond to establish a pattern. It's only after the pattern is established that anything can happen. So we waiting, waiting as an active state. Yeah, waiting, like being pregnant, you're waiting. Something's still happening, but you're still waiting for right timing. So anything can happen with this waiting. And in response, then we can move into action. Just like with the response with the 29, we can make a proper commitment to lead to discovery. Here, we wait in order to find the flow. And it's only when the pattern is properly established through waiting for asking, to be asked for the response if it's generative, as in the being, in order to find the right, proper, aligned, future-facing, logical flow. Healthy. So only when the pattern is properly established is it possible to find the flow. Only when the 29 can make its proper response, that commitment can lead to discovery. So in other words, wait for right timing. Ask. Wait for the asking. Wait for the availability of the energy, in other words. Ra says that you can never have a consistent flow if the pattern is always changing. You can't. You have to have a consistent pattern through which the focused and concentrated energy will flow. Because we are such pattern creatures, aren't we? I know I'm a pattern person. Okay? Pattern-oriented, essential to us in the nature of our life. The way that it shows up for me is there's a very specific order. The timing may not be exact or precise. A lot of times it is, though, right on the button. Oh, I go to sleep here and I wake up there until something throws me off kilter. When we look at the gate activation here with waiting, we can see the line quality. First line, perseverance. Second line, inner peace. Third line, compulsiveness. Fourth line, the hunter. Fifth line, joy. Sixth line, yielding. And these are the orientations, again, of either our personal process, inner, or transpersonal process, outer, as in reaching out to the other. Now, there is another way that you can look at this word pattern and see that we can identify it as a ritual or a routine. Ross says, whenever I'm dealing with people who have the fifth gate, I'm always talking to them about ritualizing their patterns, the orientation of their patterns. Now, this is not the power that says, hey, let's try something new and different, new experiences, change. We're looking at some power that says, this is what we're going to do. We're going to fix the way that we use our energy. We're going to be efficient. We're going to focus it. Remember, it wants to focus, little tiny details, taming power of the small, concentrate its energy into a fixed pattern. Ritualize your routines. In a business, this is the being who brings the culture. This is the way we do things around here. So we're going to concentrate on it. We're going to focus that energy, pattern, healthfully into the future. This is the way it works in order to generate an identity. So what have we learned about the logic process? This logical process is logic is starved for energy. Remember? Where it doesn't have direct access to manifestation, not anywhere. None of these gates that reach the throat are directly connected to energy. No energy up here. The energy's down here or over here. Look at that. The rest of it open to no energy, right? So because it's starved for energy, it's gasping for energy, Ron would say, quite dramatically, of course. It's one of the things that is built into the focus and concentration of the structure of these logical patterns, is that when energy is used properly, when it's available, things can properly be in flow. So correct, aligned interaction in order to be in flow. If it's out of flow, it doesn't feel correct. Ross says, the moment that you see that you have a pattern and you honor that pattern, what you're really honoring is yourself, the perfection of what it is to be you. And one of the things you see with a fifth gate in somebody's design is that what that's really saying is that you need to pay attention to your life, your patterns. We do not make up rituals. This is not a mental decision that says, I'm going to, and I used to do that, lay out my schedule and do it like this, It should be like this because they say the early bird gets the worm, and, trying to impose outside patterns on this being, this body, which, because the sacral is undefined, the patterns definitely change. And it's one of the most healthy things, remember, for a 5 to stick to their patterns and not get pulled into the other person's extremes. So you have to learn this relationally. In this dynamic, it's one of the most difficult relational dynamic channels you can have. When we get to relationships, I'll remind you, it's one of the most difficult relationship channels that you can have. Okay, I have 2 out of the 3. So, looking at your life and establishing your patterns based on what's already there. What are you experiencing? What brings you satisfaction or peace or success or surprise or whatever your frequency happens to be? It's so funny, as I've worked with this knowledge for so long, it seems obvious to me, but why not stick with what already brings success, right? Why try to reinvent the wheel? Yes, I understand that, we can have more and more levels of efficiency in order to be more effective, but don't fix it if it ain't broken, that kind of thing. Like, what is actually happening already that's bringing that person to the alignment? Because generally, it's just clearing off the cobwebs of the mind trying to run the show or trying to do something different than what already is there as a preference or predisposition within the form principle. So here's an example. You like to have your dinner at a certain time. There's your ritual. If you've got people around you who don't want to eat at that time, so what? Eat at your time. This repetition, which is the great spirit of human love, the deepest love that we can have for each other, expressed through repetition and perfection of the patterns. So you're looking at people who are always going to have trouble working for anybody else in their context, in their flow, ever, period. Quote unquote raw. Okay? They're not going to accept the imposition of patterns nor the imposition of rhythms. They will not. It will not work, and they can't. Now, his eldest son, Loki, I remember co-working with him in the beginning in 2014 when they hired me. And it was always on his flow, his timing. I've got a 5. He's got the whole channel. You can see it virtually, like they have their own thing going on, and then you get pulled into their floor. You can see it experientially in person. You can feel it magnetically. I remember living in a 3-story house, and the owner of the house lived in the basement, or he lived upstairs, but his office was in the basement. And as soon as he was hungry, bing, I found myself meeting him in the kitchen. Even though I may not be hungry, I'm like, what am I doing here? Oh, he's hungry. Making food together, because that was part of the flow that I got pulled into. Okay. Modesty, the gate of extremes. It can show up like diversity in a small group, consistency, reliability. It brings the quality of behavior which expresses the proper balance between extremes. And as it is the love of humanity, remember, flip side too, it can also be responsible for some of the atrocities against humanity. Those people don't behave logically. They're not like us, genocide and stuff like that. We're not dealing with the flesh of the body anymore. We're dealing with the human aura, okay, the aura of the body. So in dealing with the aura, this is the gate of love, a love gate, a transpersonal love gate. So one of the things to recognize is that unless we are clear in our patterns, we will fail in our love of humanity. After all, the one thing humanity requires is that it requires organization. We need our stoplights and our traffic signs and our whatever it is that's the bureaucracy. If we think about these archetypally, 46 oftentimes can be massage therapists or body workers, that kind of thing. 15, we're looking at politicians, because it is our politicians who create the kind of patterns, the structure, the logic for us to be able to get along, so to speak. That's our whole process with the 15. It's about getting organized. All creatures are rooted in this 515. Remember, it's part of everybody except plants. Everything, every design of forms except plants. So the more organized we are, the deeper our expression of love in the world. The more organized we are, the deeper our expression of the love of humanity. So you live in a country that's disorganized and chaotic, there is not that same kind of love for countrymen, God and country or whatever it happens to be. Because there is not that pattern, that linearity. That patterns bring us to a kind of safety and security, well-being. First line here being about duty. Second line, influence. Third line, ego inflation. Fourth line, the wallflower. Fifth line, sensitivity. Sixth line, self-defense. These are beings who tend to have a pulse on trends as far as what's going to be big someday. There's a couple different places where the body graph speaks to that. But remember, it's generating an identity collectively. This is not just the body anymore. It's collectively, and it begins between me and you, make two, and then a third thing. Now we have the beginnings of a small group, and that's where it all starts. Think 15. Think the magnetic capability of an aura. This is one of the reasons why this is the largest, that one in the 59.6, largest aura we have. The 15 is the aura. Just like the unconscious Jupiterian activation in your natal design is your aura. Gate 15 is responsible for the aura. Okay? Aura. Love of humanity. So the Tantra here is that you just stay there and you keep doing that pattern, that flow. The perfection of the pattern, this ongoing process of perfection. It's all part of the logical process. And when you see this, remember, it's part of our memory. So the power to repeat, okay? There is some logical things that must be stayed with in order to find the love of humanity. Love the pattern. Oh, there's the rest of it up there, okay? As far as the lower memory circuit. So we're not making a commitment to a cycle. We're saying yes to a fixed pattern here that we'll stay with. As in, this is the pattern. It brings security, safety, well-being, the repetition being essential to breed love in the world or to beget love in the world. If we can think about what that's like through repetition, through the repetition of a fixed pattern, years and years and years and years and years of, you know, as an example, my husband most of the time makes me dinner, most of the time. He quit coffee recently. Before that, he was most of the time make me coffee in the morning too. Years and years and years and years of those patterns. The biggest experiment of a human is to be in love. That's the personal love gate, yeah? Love that proves the strength of love, the love of correction, that drive for perfection, the root of mastery in relational dynamic. Logical love is breeding love through repetition of healthy patterns. That's the love of repeating. This is Tantra, as in the empowerment of the identity, that repetition being the great spirit of human love. Isn't that wonderful to see? Abstract Tantra is being lost in the moment, that timeless, lost abstraction. Logical Tantra says we must do this for eternity to perfect our love. The patterns that orient us to love. Very, very different, but still mirrors of each other. The abstract has the eternity in a moment and then it's gone. The logical is building towards the eternity continually through repetition. Very different. And yet still having the mirroring of the identity generated in the world. So one masters love, masters the patterns of love. One experiences love. Again, two very different things. The experience is in the cycles. The experiment is in the pattern, the mastery. Pattern mastery. When we talk about mastery, we're talking about patterns there. And then we go to the middle column here, the middle of the power column. The 14-2, channel of the beat, design of being a keeper of the keys. The very unique place in the body graph, nowhere else has this, where there's one channel that plays triple duty, individual, small group, large group. So it has a multidimensionality to it. This 214's unique purpose is that together they form a union that directs all of humanity and the entire planet into its proper direction. That energy being generated by each of these tantric channels we have just gone over, going up through the middle the moment we have a small group of 3 to 5 people. That's the energy circuitry flow, whether it be a small group of family members or a business group. That's the way that it works. So this brings then the joy of being in the right direction, empowering through its beat, marching to the beat of its own drum, keeper of the keys, keys to the kingdom. Because the 14 power skills brings this energy that jumpstarts any company, any business, any family. It's a wealth gate. And in the large business, the 2 brings finances or the financial direction. Small group, it brings vision. So it brings humanity, not just individually. It brings all of us into the proper direction. This is the one place right here, this 14, that in a large group, it has no need for a power base. Every other large group channel has other channels within the body graph flowing into it. But everything flows to this 14. Everything flows to this 14, which is why it is a wealth gate, a power skills gate. Powerful. Like if you were a car, it would be the gas pedal. The driver, the gate 2, is the magnetic monopole. It's pulling me to me and you to you, and it's pulling us along our path and trajectory in space, regardless of whether we have a planet there or not. All of us have a magnetic monopole. The 14 is the gas pedal, and the 2 would be like the steering wheel, okay, on autopilot. So possession in great measure, the gate of power skills, the accumulation and retention of power through skilled interaction, coupling grace with control. The 14th gate is where money comes from, because money is a mutation. It was the way that we could move money easily between me and you without the negotiation and the bargain business of trade, you know, hawking one's wares. I have this, what will you give me for this? Okay, we'll have that kind of thing. Money is a mutation that allowed us to make it easier to transfer value. The mutation that brought money into the world happened here in the 14th gate. And in the first line, money isn't everything. Second line, management. Third line, service. Fourth line, security. Fifth line, arrogance. Sixth line, humility. And that 14th gate makes money. Makes money, like literally, it makes money. Possession in great measure seems like a funny name. If you think back to the ancient Ravi Ching, the loaded down wagon, you know, carrying along your stuff. Maybe it's being pulled by a cow or whatever. You know, you got all your stuff, loaded down wagon. Possession in great measure. It already has that possession. It already has it in great measure. Measure is a funny word in the Maya, Ra would say. Ma, as in Maya, ma, to measure, the root word. To measure, the Maya, to measure. And here is in great measure, to measure, measure. So Ra doesn't want us to misconstrue wealth and directly equate it to money. Remember, the foundation of the 14, money isn't everything. After all, that's what it says. That's what it's at its basis. So money isn't everything. The foundation of the 14th gate is that there is available, distributable energy. Money is simply an agreement between people in order to transfer value, isn't it? So whether it be fiat currency or cryptocurrency or gold or whatever it happens to be, money is an exchange of energy. It's a quick, easy way, or not, gold maybe not so easy to disperse of, but to spend, accumulate and spend money. It's energy. Money is simply energy. Energy, like a prana. Prana is energy. The word prana means energy. Money is energy that flows in and out. Okay, energy flow. That's why they call it banks, like banks of a river. That's why they call it currency. Yeah, the current of water. It flows between all of us. And where it can be generated is in the gate 14. Quite a beautiful thing to see, this 14. The engine that jump-starts any business. One of the reasons why I have it unconscious on my sun and also my Mars, so it's very mutative. In the 5th line and 6th line, transpersonal, part of my life's process in order to help other people relative to their capability of generating money or going in the right direction because they don't have a gas pedal and they don't maybe necessarily know how to have that great big vision of theirs come to fruition. And it's unconscious. I was always drawn to it. Quite a beautiful thing to see. The generation of an identity in the world, a tantric energy. So the whole thing about the 14th gate is why it starts off with money isn't everything is because it's individual, which means off and on. there and gone. This energy, because energy is gathering here, I kind of liken it to the gatherer, even though they don't relate, in that one thing where they have something in common is that this is upper management. Okay, upper management, these channels, particularly that 45 right there. Okay, upper management. So, because this is individual in the 14, it's off and on, there and gone. It's melancholic. The melancholy says, the love of work or not. I have to work. I don't want to work. You know, it's another gate of slavery or super slavery. Okay, because it's melancholic, when it's there, you may be happy relative to money being there, or you might be sad. And when you're sad that it's not there, okay, that relative to however it is that brings you joy. What if you're really not happy with the money that life brought you, as in you've got too much of it? As in, money brings its own problems. It really does. That's the enlightened recognition that money brings its own problems. This energy here, availability, always happens in a pulse. Off and on, there and gone. Money being there or not. Not necessarily that you own the wealth. Okay, it's not tribal. But possession in great measure, maybe you are using the energy to go specifically, or the resources, custodying it, or whatever it happens to be. So we have the pattern to ensure the flow with the gate 5, the energy to move in the right direction with the 14, and the commitment in order to discover. 5s dictate with the 29. 5s dictate the pattern. Okay? They ensure the flow. And 29 dictates the commitment in order to discover. And that 14, like a gas pedal, or releasing the energy in order to move in the right direction to empower the great big vision, not only the direction of an individual, the vision of a small company, the financial procurement of funds in order to hand it over to that person who is responsible for putting the money out into the world, however it is that it is distributing that energy. So if we think about the 14, we know it's a generator gate, a generator quality to the energy, meaning it needs to be asked for. So if you're a 14 like me, you cannot just throw your money around. Let's just see if it sticks. Spaghetti on the wall. Let's just spend our money in this direction, or this direction, or this direction, trying to find some clear direction that takes us forward. If you've got a hole in your boat, you keep throwing money down it, guess what? You're going to sink someday, because the water's just going to fill up. Gone is the boat or the business. So we who are 14 can only know that, of course, when asked if it's right for us through our authoritative principle, whatever it happens to be, where to put the money. If it's generative, then they know based on response. If they're emotional, then over time with clarity. And that's what generates an empowered, big vision, direction, company in the world. Identity. Remember, a company has an identity. It is comprised of the individuals that make up that company. Okay? When I say large business, really not the homogenized version. Small group, 3 to 5 people. Larger group, it's 10 to 16, which is actually still a micro business considered to be here in this country anyway. But a medium size, small company anyway. It also depends on how much money you're making relative to how the homogenized world identifies a small or large company. Okay, so people will give money a bad reputation. And, whoa, you're all about the money. Money is not spiritual, but somehow, some way, if you have this virus in your programming that say people who have money are bad people, that belief cannot live in context with you having money, because now that makes you a bad person. And if you don't want to be seen as a bad person or identified as somebody who's all about the money, then there is this challenge relative to the construct of how you're going to interpret what's happening to you and what you have available to you. There's nothing wrong with money. In other words, money is simply energy. and it comes and goes, it flows in one's life. So the 14th gate is literally creating this energy frequency field, power skills, possession in great measure, that literally creates a kind of distributable energy. Okay, a distributable energy, coupling grace with control, scaled interaction, relative to however it is that that quality shows up in a being. So if this possession in great measure is theirs, yours, you have the joy of being in the right direction. That power skills, oh, it's such a creative gate. It's one of those things, you know, like the timelessness of over here and over there, like we're in a pattern of a flow, or we're in the experience. When I'm doing creative work, I lose track of time completely, utterly. Working on slides, like, oh, my husband comes by. He's usually the one that pulls my attention out of what I'm doing because I'm having so much fun. Creating, because this is a fuel in response. It's a gas pedal to the creative expression of the identity of the company. The actual identity of the company here, and then the expression of the company, small business, there. Okay, so the identity here, the expression there, but down here, the resources to generate the resources, the wealth of the company. You see my slides? I obviously have help nowadays, but same thing. There used to be a joke about Lavina, what she do for work? She creates slides, because I spent so much time with that gas pedal. And it doesn't matter whether the ignition is on or not when it comes to generating money. When the driver is behind the wheel or not, I mean, if there's a planet there or not, there is this energy availability that can be released. So what matters truly is it in alignment with your highest calling, path, purpose, direction, life, purpose, fulfillment? Because if it's not, everything's always going to feel like a struggle, frustrating, hard, pushing the river uphill. If you're trying to do things for the money and you're not passionate about it, it's not going to succeed. It's not going to bring you satisfaction of who you are for yourself, success or peace or surprise, relatively speaking to your type. The large group keynote here is the empowerer. And that's what it is, to empower our higher direction in life. It's called the beat, that channel, because of the transition of the mutative pulse of energy. Remember mutation down here? Further up in this flow, energy flow, don't you know? We're looking at this particular channel being a magnificent kingdom indeed. I hope that was fun for you. I know I love it personally too. The two, let's talk about the two. Receptive, the gate of direction of the self. Receptivity as a primal base through which any response is determined. The root of action. We see all broken yin lines, okay, all yin lines, the form principle too, where we see the driver or the direction of the self, okay, the driver, the direction of the self. First line being about intuition, second line genius, third line patience, fourth line secretiveness, fifth line intelligent application, sixth line fixation. So we're looking at this being, if we're looking at Neptune's trident, yeah, the staff, so to speak, the Sphinx roll gates. All of these roll gates of identity up here are subservient to the second gate, because the second gate is where this energy is coming from and splitting off into either the creative expression, the leadership moving forward, or the recognition of the secrets, what happened in the past, looking backwards. So these are nuances forking off from the two. They're expressions, the three different ways the now can go: past, present, future, which is an illusion, because the present is the truth of the moment, which informs the past, which affects the future. Do recall that we are multidimensional creatures and we experience time linearly because that's what we're locked into. But the truth is, these are just nuances, expressions of what it is to be in form. The gate 2, the driver, magnetic monopole, the realm of the higher self, where the driver sits, that pulls me to me and you to you, the magnetic monopole, sits there, hangs out its line, and hooks us up into our trip in this time, in this space, in this reality, in this place. Okay, so there you see it underneath the identity. We want to never think about the Sphinx as a incarnation cross without the 14th gate. Now, obviously, some Sphinxes out there are going to have their own 14th gate. As a 14 myself, I can attest to the fact that having Sphinxes in my life is incredibly valuable. I would not be who I am today if I did not have a couple of Sphinxes on my team that helped me with my direction and this company. So you'll see it's, you could say Neptune or Shiva's trident, whatever pleases you, to recognize how this direction points us into the world through our time frequencies. All time being now in the moment, or the past, which is abstract, or the future, which is logical, linear, pattern-oriented. That's the power that's inherent there within this relational dynamic between a 14 high contagions and Sphinxes. You'll find them connecting up with each other. Kind of a fun thing to see. I would love to someday, when you guys get to incarnation crosses, if any of you are like totally geeking out about crosses connecting, every time I teach, I try to go through different, aspects or avenues of the study. And it would be wonderful to find some time, somehow, some way, to see how all these crosses connect with each other. Because there are obviously patterns where we just find each other. And what does that say about us as a species? That's a really big picture view. And I know I can't do it alone. I would love to do that someday. So here, the Sphinx energy, okay, or availability to point out the direction, because that's what Sphinxes do, comes directly from the 14th gate. So when we're looking at a small group, we're looking at energy that collects together and goes right up the middle. Okay, small group of people. 70% of that energy goes into the now. Hi, Lavina. Now. 15% goes to the past, 15% goes to the future. Okay? So that's the way that it is experienced and expressed. And one of the reasons, this is kind of off topic, but I'll tell you because it's very, very clear to me, and I wish somebody had told this to me sooner. As a projector, as a 1/8, I am not myself in a small group. I can't be. Because I have a channel outside of the group, I don't get access to that when I'm in the group. So what happens to me is I become the mouthpiece, the spokesperson of the group, the representative, the creative expression of the identity, the demonstrative pillar, the person who speaks for the identity of the group, and it's not all me. It is so not me sometimes. It's not me. And I wish I'd known that sooner. That's all. Just to know, to recognize, to self-realize, to be aware of why it's so important to be in the right place with the right people. And that ideally, even though I have a small group channel, that my work is best experienced one person at a time. The only reason I can do this with you is because you're all virtual. You're not here in my aura. You see? Okay. The nature of Tantra is that the individual Tantra has nothing to do with anything other than the joy of being in the right direction. Oh, it like pulls you up straighter, you know? It allows your chest, my chest, it feels like it glows when I'm going in the right direction. It feels like I'm being pulled or called. It feels open, it feels inviting, it feels warm like a glow behind the back of my sternum when I'm going in the right direction, when I'm speaking from truth, when I'm inspired. So, to move in the right direction, this is the root of that, as a 14 too, it provides a sense of psychic security. That's the whole thing about the 14. Psychic security. Why? Because it knows. It knows. Remember, it's part of the knowing circuit? It knows. The moment that we invest our energy in going in the right direction or the correct direction, we're going to feel really good, as in aligned, as in open. For me, warm, inviting. For you, if you're generative, you might feel satisfied. For a manifester, peaceful. For a reflector, surprised. very different frequencies, but still it feels good. The essence of the nature of our spirit of abundance arising from inside is our signature by type, like I just mentioned. It's not the physical Tantra of the collective, because the collective is rooted in sharing. It's the empowerment here with the channel of the beat, design of being a keeper of the keys to the kingdom, in that you get the sense that your love, this experiencing that in a channel with your partner potentially, your love is taking you in the right direction, and that you're in the right direction for love to be experienced between the two. Because remember, the identity is about love and direction. When you have it defined in your design, you're here to comfort or console people about the direction we're all going in. You're here to embody love, you're here to broadcast love. When you have it in a relational dynamic, now the two of you going in the right direction together in your love feels satisfying, self-satisfying, or sweet, surprising, peaceful, what have you, okay? It doesn't matter whether it's on or off, the nature of the pulse, on or off, so there might be melancholy there, not to worry. It's simply part of the direction, the pulse of off and on, and that feels good. So feeling good that we know we're going in the right direction, signpost that you're in the right direction, the joy, the vitality. We know that the sacral center is the energy availability. So it feels good to be who you are for yourself, going in the right direction. Doesn't it? Doesn't it? Do you know that one yet? Ross says the reality of the sacral center makes an enormous contribution to the totality. The moment that we can educate our sacral generators for them to recognize that their power is always going to come out of response, and only out of response, eternally out of response. And every generator that starts working with response starts changing the Tantra of the world. In other words, the energy, the identity of what is generated in the world, love and direction, identity generated in the world. Through this world frequency, the almost 70% of humanity being generative, this global frequency, we need you in order for all of us, the rest of us non-sacral, for all of us to have the kind of expression of love in the world that our global Tantra is capable of. We are incredibly dependent on you, the generator, because again, remember, you responding creates a frequency. And like a great bell that tolls for miles, drawing everybody into its frequency field, the satisfaction of who you are for you. It's one of the reasons why Roth tried for so many years to get you to wake up, to just be you, to respond, to be available to your response, to be who you are for yourself, and that power creating that sacral yumminess, that juiciness. Tantra is not initiated in the world. Tantra, as in the generative identity of the world, comes out of response. So when we see the sacral field, the moment it's truly responding, we have a flood of love into the world, a flood of energy into the world. And this is inspiring to me. So remember, it's about bringing a generation of beings into the love of life itself, the love of the higher self, the embodiment of the higher self, the identity, as a constant or a fixed, specific way that this being is going to express their identity, their role, their love in the world. And when we feel that satisfaction or success or surprise or peace, we know we're going in the right direction. And the right direction is to be an expression of love in the world. Not to be loved, but to simply be that magnificent adoration of what it is to be embodied in this world, in this life, and with this collective humanity. All of that is about simply allowing the generator to be what it is as a perfect response mechanism. You are perfect, exactly as you are, because you exist. And it is my great wish and desire for you to experience the love that is true. Follow your strategy, honor yourself as your own authority, and you will find what you came here to be. That incredible pulse of sweet, aching reality that is experienced over time, either linearly or cyclically, or in the pulse of the now, off and on, there and gone, in a flash of a moment that is eternal. The new era that we're moving into is abundance is strictly a question of spirit. And the 55 in line 6 talks about finding the abundance of spirit through materialism. So in the new era, in a few more years, we find our spirit through materialism. Now, materialism doesn't necessarily have to be money. But as an example, what they're saying there, I can understand when it comes to surviving financially. If you are scraping and scrimping and you are working and super slaving and you're always focused on the lack thereof, no abundance, but the lack, then it can be that it's hard for you to focus on whatever is spiritual for you. However, what about the life process being spiritual? What about every moment of every day, every breath that you take, every floor that you sweep, every towel that you fold? You know, I like folding towels and sweeping floors. It's just a weird thing, the pattern, you know. Okay, these things that bring us alive because they are part of the pattern of what it is to be alive, what makes life more beautiful, vital. You know, some people are here, what they do defines you. This is me, Lavina, okay, speaking. What I do defines me. Some beings, what they do does not define them. We are all unique, so I hate those trite memes out there that don't speak to the nature of our multidimensional reality, which is your perspective is everything. It is the only thing that matters. Your experience of yourself. It doesn't matter what anybody else says, does, or thinks, and no rules upon you. You are your own authority, and it can be this and that. Paradox embracing is the truth of this existence.